Hello, everyone. I'm going to be hopping back on with Mr. Alex Conn, uh, and this will be the last one, and we'll call it. Ah, shit.
Okay, so my problem with Black Lives Matter, and I think now we should kind of get into modern issues before we close, because we've been talking really philosophically. My problem with Black Lives Matter is I feel like they're kind of all over the place philosophically, where they'll go where like something like, and it has a big problem with like hashtag Me Too, and it kind of goes in like there's this kind of ways with Black Lives Matter where they're like, oh yeah, this, and it's like this cop, this cop, this cop, this cop, and it's before necessarily we have our proper information and before everything. It's just this kind of incredibly reactionary thing, and we need to, before we have a movement, we need to. George Floyd was that was a crime. That was fucking embarrassing. What happened to Breonna Taylor was fucking disgraceful. No knock warrants are bullshit. And we need to actually we need to have a conversation about these things, and we need to enact policies that would, but at the same time.
So the movement, you're saying the movement needs to have a conversation with itself and determine what it is and what its goals are. Because it's very true that like the accountability is sort of the thing that they're going for. But again, what does that mean in policy? Are you talking about qualified immunity? Are you talking about proper third-party investigations into police departments in general? What are the solutions? What is the path forward? What is this movement about? Because the movement is a mixture of what individuals think it is and sort of what everyone thinks it is. Everyone thinks it's, I care about black people, like that everybody that's in favor of it. I care about black people. They're dying. This is not okay. We need to do something about it. That's where most people are coming from. Then you have the actual leaders of the actual formed, named organization, and they want to like bring down Western civilization and implement a Marxist revolution. And then you have people that are just on the streets that are just pissed and don't really know any of this stuff. And then you have me, who says that we can have conversations about these broader narratives, we can have conversations about these broader issues, but everyone agrees on these two essential points. One, cops should not be allowed to abuse citizens. And two, if they do, they should be held accountable. Mm-hmm. And that can be the beginning and the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. And that's where that is what gets me to this continuing theme of we actually all agree on the issues. It's just these teams and this tribalism and all this stuff that distracts us and makes us think we have divisions between us. And it goes all the way to the top. Even like the heights of philosophical theory often create an us and them dynamic, or try to create separations amongst citizens and amongst humans, and most of those are bullshit. You know, even if you want to say you're a black transgender immigrant from Laos who was raised by a Marxist and Lutheran or whatever. Anyways, at the end of the day, you're still a human being with a soul, and like I'm a human being with a soul, and we can talk, and you could tell me about your life, and I could try to put myself in your shoes and understand, and what it all means in policy, we can all understand. And so we need to have this like universal, and I don't want to say I'm like calling anyone specific. It's all of us. It's me included. We need to have this universal disarmament, this nuclear disarmament of politics, to just say like, I'm not going to assume you're an asshole. I'm not going to assume you don't care about what I care about. I'm not going to assume you're so stupid I can't explain things to you. To your earlier point, you talked about certain people you won't talk to, and I'm not pushing it. I'm not saying for you or for anyone, that you need to change your worldview. But for me, for Jordan Farmer, for this individual right here, I'm the guy who believes that I can talk to anyone and bring anyone in. I've literally talked to a straight up racist who called whose references first off, in 5 seconds he started talking about black and brown people, but it was N-words and beaners and wetbacks and stuff like that. He had a shirt that said 100% white. He had a MAGA hat on, and he was coming up and he was just being an old asshole to people in Sanger, California. And instead of jumping down his throat or making a show of it, I said, let me actually just talk to this dude. And I asked him, why do you think that black people are inherently different? Why do you think white people are inherently different, et cetera, et cetera? And as he brought up each point, I don't remember the details, but as he brought up each point, I actually tried to deal with him and prove to him with reason that he was mistaken. Because racism is a worldview. If you believe it's a belief system. You believe there's something inherently different about the races. And if you can break down that belief system through the right questions, you can bring someone in. So I got him to a point, right? Racist, old white man, can't change, whatever. I got him to a point in the conversation where he said, I'm just too old to change, which to me means he's going to go home and realize he's wrong and have to deal with that however he's going to deal with that. And so even though I didn't get the racist to change his mind, that was still worth it to me. And that is why I'm doing this political stuff. That's why I'm not just being an introvert like I want to and going and cleaning cars and being a security guard or whatever I've done, is because I have this willingness to talk with anyone and to try to bring people together as a function of it. So for me, that's really important. And I think for anyone who feels like they can bring that kind of a skill set to the thing, you do it, man. You fucking do it. Because we need it. We need as many people doing this fucking thing the right way as we can get. Because everyone has avoided this industry forever. Politics is the one area of life where almost everyone doesn't want to deal with it. And it's the one fucking area where we all have to deal with it. So it needs to change. Sorry, that is passion because it's the fucking real truth, man. We gotta do this right.
Yeah. But for instance, with Black Lives Matter, I think you said, I think everybody agrees that black people shouldn't get harassed by cops. And I agree. I think that black people disproportionately get harassed and shot by cops. That is a truth that I think we need to.
Just so you understand, right-wingers will say that some studies show that the murder rates relative to their criminality, black people commit more crimes than white people. If we assume that's true, the data shows that, then they're going to have more issues where they're going to come across with cops. And so there will be more black murders than white murders by cops, but proportionate to the population, but behavior would explain some of that. You can even say that, but if you take it one step below murder, because here's the trick of politics, they'll say it's murder by cop. Take it one notch below murder to rape or to physical assault and harassment, like you said. And inarguably, I think by a margin of 25%, black people are overly likely to deal with shit by cops. It's 25% more likely when you account for all the factors. So it is a real issue, not necessarily on the murder thing. We don't know, probably. but anyways, and so you have this broader narrative of racism that we should be fighting, but on this issue, we have this policy issue in front of us, this set of policy concerns and qualified immunity and all that stuff. And so we gotta be zoned in on that. Anyways, I interrupted. Please continue.
Okay, but Black Lives Matter, I think there is a really good goal. I think everybody agrees. There's been way too many cop shooting black people, or just black cops harassing black people. But
most people would agree George Floyd was murdered.
Yeah, everybody. I think everybody, conservative or liberal. When George Floyd was murdered, that time, and when Harvey Weinstein, we're going to talk about Metoo, I promise. But that time when
That'll be the next one.
That's going to be the next one. That was the only time where I felt there was unity between the political parties and religions and whatever. But like you look at like there was one like I was always like kind of like the one like point where like I have to really just like defend the cop almost completely was, do you remember that time where like the black girl
Jacob
was
Blake.
about to knock into her friend and the
Oh
cop
yeah,
shot
I know
her
what you're talking about. Yeah,
and the
yeah,
cop
where she
shot her?
literally pulled the knife out and was going to shank a chick, and the cop was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh!"
And then like you saw like the next day where like she was gonna be a doctor. And I was like, to compare that to George Floyd is so fucking disrespectful to George Floyd, and is so disrespectful to the men and women, black men and women, who are shot by police officers. Because that was such an obvious example of police officers being right, and you're making your movement look silly by just bringing up every single random example of a shot by a cop. And that was an example where the cop was almost completely right. Like,
yeah, and Jacob Blake is now. I would say that's an example where the cop was completely right. Like a chick was literally about to stab another chick, and he's like, "This has to stop." And it wasn't the chick getting stabbed's fault, you know. It was the other chick's fault. One thing, and it's important, and I think you sort of instinctively value this. Black people are humans too, for good, bad, and ugly, and in between. Like, we got to treat them that way. We can't treat black people as just victims who are not in charge of their own decision making. Like, George Floyd was murdered for the wrong reasons, was murdered for the wrong reasons, shouldn't have been, etc., etc. But before that, he was a shit human being. Like, he shouldn't be idolized by anyone. He robbed a woman at gunpoint, a pregnant woman. I mean, he robbed a woman at gunpoint. She happened to be pregnant. He, I think he had assaulted somebody. Like, he was not someone you would revere as an exemplary citizen. And that just speaks more to the point that someone like that shouldn't be, like, their life is still worth it. Their life is still worth protecting, and those cops should have still acted with the concern for the preservation of life and valuing that man's life. And the Jacob Blake thing is another example where this dude showed up and digitally, like with his fingers, raped a underage girl, and he's overage, and had done it before. She got a restraining order against him. He showed back up at the house and raped her again, and then took her keys and was trying to take her kids in the car and leaving. And then the cops show up, and then they say, "Hey, stop. You need to get down on the ground." And then for like 10 seconds, this retard is just walking towards his car, walking and walking some more and walking. And the cops behind him following like, "Stop, stop, stop, stop." And then he goes around, like from the back of the car, across, and then across the front, and then around to the driver's side, opens the door and reaches in. What do you think a cop is going to do? Like,
yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry. Like, if I'm telling you, stop, sit down, don't go into this thing where you might have a weapon and you're going to be a threat. Listen to me. Just stand there. Just stand there. And he couldn't fucking do it. So, like,
yeah.
And he survived, the fucking twat. Like, Jacob Blake is still, he's paralyzed, but he's still alive. Like, he still got out of it. Somehow getting shot 3 times from point blank range in your rib cage, but whatever. Anyways,
George Floyd,
we're all humans, for good and for worse.
Yeah, like there are definitely, like, George Floyd, I think, was a complicated man. I wouldn't say he was a horrible man, because but I don't want to get into that argument, because I think that's just kind of a I just don't think that's a really good argument.
I don't care about the personal character of George Floyd. It's not relevant.
No, I don't either. But
any
I'm
of
just
this
saying.
stuff. No. I'm saying, like, I understand, like, you don't want to get into it because I don't have a formed opinion. I've just heard things, and I don't believe in idolizing anyone.
Yeah, I don't believe in idolizing that. I mean, there are definitely like there was the there are elements, like there are definitely like famous ones that like are like completely uncomplicated. Like there was like the Fruitvale Station one is like so obviously a murder by cop that like you can't say otherwise. Like that's so obviously a murder by cop. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm not familiar with that
Okay, so there
scenario.
was I can't remember the guy's name, but there was a movie based on it. It was called Fruitvale
For
Station.
anyone watching, I just sprayed some cologne to make myself smell better. I'm not trying to be a weirdo
But
feeling
there was a
myself.
film called Fruitvale Station, and what happened was there was a supposedly it was with Michael B. Jordan, and there was like a fight on the train, and these two people were apprehended, and one of them like was literally like they brought him into one part of the train station, and they literally shot him. They just shot him point blank, just shot him, and I thought that's definitely murder by cop. There's other stories like again, I just don't think we should just go into situations where like every time a cop shoots somebody that it's supposedly evil, and it's just one of those things where I just think it's wrong. And also I think one of the best, like something like Eric Garner was one that like was so obvious that that was a police brutality. That was so obviously misconduct by police officers. Um,
That
but
was the guy that got choked, right?
yeah, and that was the guy that was selling Lucy's. But again, you have to put the blame on Bill De Blasio a little bit because he started a war on loose cigarettes. I
Yep.
think I think I think that what people don't want to talk about is the fucking war on drugs is a big part of this. A lot of the reason why black people are getting stopped by police officers is because of the war on drugs.
Yep.
Um, and that's like a big that's a big fucking deal. And I don't think that people talk about this. And anyway, that's just my spiel on. And it's funny because yeah, I just think that Black Lives Matter. It's a it's an honorable movement, and I think it's honorable. But also, I think the political violence is wrong, and I don't think you can adequately condemn January 6th without condemning some of the violence that happened with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally agree. And to sort of your point, it's not a well-formed movement, right? There's no Civil Rights Act that they're trying
Mm-hmm.
to propose or anything. It's very much sort of vague. You wanted to talk about, and I'd love to talk about the Metoo movement and sort of what happened with that.
Yeah,
And maybe we could bring it into like Andrew Cuomo, Joe Biden, Donald
yeah, we can
Trump.
definitely
Like,
talk about
if we can
this.
bring it
And
into the powers that be, I'd love to.
yeah, so I remember very much when Harvey Weinstein was. This is actually, like I said, this is when I was a male feminist. Uh, I remember very much when Harvey Weinstein was the women that did that, and they uncovered, and Ronnie Farrow and everybody kind of came up and got it, and it was so beautiful, the sense of like not community, I wouldn't say, but the sense of unity I felt between the country, between the parties. Like everybody came together and condemned this awful, awful man. And I remember being a little sad because what Weinstein did for the independent film movement was kind of unparalleled and gave great filmmakers their careers, like people like Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith, great filmmakers. And I was just so
Jeffrey Epstein funded many science
yeah,
endeavors.
yeah, exactly. So I remember just being incredibly sad. And then you heard about Kevin Spacey being one of my favorite actors. Like,
I was just talking about The Negotiator. That's one of my favorite movies with Samuel L. Jackson and him.
mm,
That's where I sort of discovered and fell in love with Kevin Spacey's acting.
yeah.
Give me 1 second. I have to pee. I'll be.
Okay. Okay, cool. So Me too. And then my problem with
Harvey
it is,
Weinstein, and we were talking about Harvey Weinstein and independent filmmaking, and
he did
it's
a lot
interesting
for,
if you've read Harry Potter, the Minister of Magic says that Lucius Malfoy is donated to many good causes. I think if you have the ability, if you have the ability to say about someone they've done a good thing for this good movement, it's like a little trick to make you think they're a good person and not look into it.
that's not what I was trying to say. I wasn't trying to defend it. I was just saying that, like, this
No,
guy that, like,
I was just saying, like, we should watch for that trend in society where people will be like, blah 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 has been doing some sketchy shit, and they're like, but he donates to good causes. It's like, that doesn't mean shit.
No, that doesn't mean shit. But all I'm saying is, it's just like, again, it's just like it just was like something I was sad about. And then I was like, I was ride or die Me Too. And then there were two cases that I think are incredibly questionable with Me Too, and two cases that I think both I think they are questionable in terms of like their ethics, and questionable in terms of their reasons to be canceled, because Me Too was the beginning of cancel culture. One of the first big one of the first one that I always felt was like the big like, this is bullshit Me Too, was Louis C.K. Louis C.K. It's funny because we actually talked briefly about Louis C.K. at the beginning of the show. Louis C.K. was somebody who, this is based on the allegations, he masturbated in front of two like aspiring comedians, and he said that they said that they consented to it. But the reason it was wrong was because they were allegedly below him. And they felt like they had to say yes, because if they didn't, they couldn't be cool with him, basically.
They wouldn't have the same opportunities.
Yeah, so that was the argument. It wasn't necessarily a consent argument. It was an argument over power. And that was what the UK thing. And then when people called their bullshit, they eventually said, like, oh no, like we really just like I actually didn't give consent, because they knew that people would eventually catch on to that bullshit. And I still see Louis. Louis is still a great comedian, but like that's just true. I don't think the Louis C.K. allegations really hold that much water.
I'm gonna get some shit for this, and then I want you to continue your point. But that kind of a scenario, to me, my lesson is I got to make sure my friends that are female and my daughters know how to say no, and like have a better, like, to me, Louis C.K. being a horny man and being around an attractive comedian, and like they're fucking around talking about all kinds of stuff, and then he's like, you know, I'm kind of turned on. Can I whip my dick out? Can I play with it a little bit? Like, I don't, like, the woman should just be able to be like, no, that makes me uncomfortable. And like know ahead of time that she can say that. And if she doesn't get opportunities or anything, well, then you can then say that about the man. Now you have more power over him because he tried to jerk off in front of you. You said no, and he won't give you any more opportunities like that. You kind of gain something almost in leverage and stuff out of that. So it's so like, and I'm not saying that. And here's the thing: what else could Louis have done? If you like jerking off in front of women, you're around some women, you ask them if that's cool, and they're cool with it, and they say they're cool with it, like, you might not like that. Again, this is where it's like, it's offensive, it bothers me, it doesn't mix with my sensibilities. But is it wrong? I don't think it's wrong at all. That particular one. There's many other scenarios. Even the power dynamic, I think, like, had limited application in that kind of a scenario, but I see it. I just don't think it's like immoral, because he's still a human. even if he has power, he's still a human.
Yeah, and the other one that I think with less and less time, that I think was kind of even like liberals now say it was like even like a lot of liberals have said like, yeah, this was probably a shouldn't thing, is Al Franken.
Yeah, that one was kind of funny.
Like Al Franken, like what was his like charge? Like he in like a video he like did like
there was a picture of him with some military, with some soldiers, and one of them was female, and she was like bending over or asleep or whatever. I think she was asleep like this, and so he took a picture like with his hands in the air in front of her boobs to pretend like he's doing something.
Yeah.
And I think it came up after that scandal. It came up after that he might have like smacked some chick on the ass or something, but I'm not sure about that. That might just be
that's what I heard as well. But like it's like that's that. And Me Too, I think I think it's in like Black Lives Matter, honorable cause. And then you get to Aziz Ansari. And with Aziz Ansari, it's like, I think this Me Too shit is getting a little out of control. Where like with Aziz Ansari, that's just a bad date.
I think isn't the crux of it like he just wanted to have sex, he didn't care about talking, and so I felt used. Like that was their fucking Me Too moment.
Yeah. And that was that. And then I remember when James Franco happened. James Franco actually turned out to be kind of a perv. But I remember even as a male feminist, like I was like, for one, it was funny because the reason I actually didn't believe it at first, because for one, James Franco had just put out, in my opinion, the movie of 2017, which was The Disaster Artist. And what the James Franco accusers did is they released their allegations exactly the day or like a few days after the Academy started voting, because the Academy was going to there's very big buzz that James Franco could not only get a best actor nomination, he could win best actor for The Disaster Artist. That was like a serious possibility. But these women on that day, on like the day before that's when they chose to release their allegations. And even as a male feminist, I was like, I call bullshit on this, because I want attention
because of the timing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I want to make a little side note. The Hunter Biden story is a great example of how trying to be timely, sort of what you're talking about. And this is just politics, sort of. Even in the award ceremony thing, it was politics. Releasing it at that time was politics or competitive stuff.
Yeah.
The Hunter Biden story, which incriminates Biden and is very bad for him, was released in October of 2020, 1 month before the election, to try to get like that last minute push. But they had that story and turned over the laptop, and like Rudy Giuliani knew about all this stuff in like November of 2019. So before the primaries even happened, they could have released this and gotten Biden out of there. And they didn't. And I think that highlights that if you try to wait for political timing, it can burn you. Because what happened was big tech buried that story. The New York Post that shared that was the person or the outlet that published that story, was like shut down on Twitter and couldn't share anything. Like big tech for a month went hardcore crackdown on it, and that swayed the election, like no question. That was one of many things that they did that swayed the election. And so for anyone who's paying attention, like those kinds of politically timely releases of valuable information, you should probably just release it once you can. Anyway, sorry, I know I was ranting, but
so
continue your point.
Black Lives, so Me Too, but I was like very much like a believe all women thing, and then I had a very personal experience that very much changed my view of Me Too, which is I got falsely accused of sexual assault when I was basically what happened is I went to a private school, and this girl says, hey, like, do you want to like hey, do you want to like hang out? Hey, do you want to like they basically at gym class at this one private school, they didn't have gym class. They actually would go to a real life gym. So there was this thing
That's
at the
cool.
beginning, at the back of the gym. They basically had like this little place where some kids would hang out. And this girl and her friend basically said, hey, you seem cool, like I'd like to I'd love to like have you and hang out with you in the back of the thing. And I was just feeling sad, and I think I was just feeling sad and a little nervous. I don't know what, but I was feeling kind of nervous at the time. And I asked for a hug, and she gave me a hug, and that was a Friday. And then on Monday, the admissions director, who was kind of at that time kind of functioning as the co-principal, said, I would like to speak with you in my office. And I said, I have history class. And she was like, just go to history class, it's fine. And I was worried all through history class, like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? And then I find it's the girl that I gave that we had a hug now says that not only did I give her a hug, but I groped her ass and I licked her. And this gossip, this school was only like 50 kids, so that shit went all across the entire
So
school.
you were Mr. Creep in 5 seconds, yeah.
Yeah. And keep in mind, that was my second day of school when that happened. So this was my kind of first impression, was this like, oh, I was a creep. But it's weird with her, with this girl, because this girl was like she was like a narcissist, but she was a narcissist in this way where it wasn't like she had anything against me that
This is the side note, and it's a serious story. I don't want to be like dismissive, but that term narcissist, man, that's another buzzword. Like I hear that so much nowadays, and I feel like it's because it's like a technical psychology term. I wonder what the source of that. Probably Trump, honestly. Probably Trump was the source of discussions about narcissism.
I probably should. Yeah, I should probably contextualize. But she basically said, but like, from my interpretation, it wasn't anything against me. What she wanted to do was she wanted to be one of the Me Too victims. She wanted to be a Me Too victim. She wanted to be able to say on Twitter, #MeToo. Like, and that's what she wanted to do. It wasn't necessarily out of any form of spite towards me. It was because of that And that kind of completely changed my view on Me Too. Because at that point, and also this is an interesting thing. This was a few weeks after the end of the Brett Kavanaugh investigation. So this was like kind of hot water for like the believe all women shit. And what the school did, and the school is not around anymore, the school refused to put it in record that this was investigated and I was proven innocent. And that, just so you know, that completely, I think that kind of made me, I wouldn't say that made me right-wing, but that made me, I think, a little bit more questioning of left-wing institutions.
Yeah, it makes sense that a scenario like that would make you sort of have to acknowledge that people can lie about this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Like that people can, like, thank God I've never been in that kind of a situation, and I hope I never am in that kind of a situation. But yeah, I mean, I just like I said, I always think about it as like, if they're women, if they're black, if they're an immigrant, if they're this category, that category, whatever. We're all human. And so, like, believe all women was immediately bullshit to me. I'm like, of course, like, women lie. What do you mean, believe all women? Oh, a woman would never
Women
lie
do lie.
about something as serious as rape to get at somebody. First off, you don't know how vengeful women can be if you think that. But beyond that, like, women rape, women own sex slaves, women, like, are human traffickers. Women are capable of a lot more evil than just lying. So the fact that you wouldn't even, and this is an issue with our society, we have like an angelic view of women. Like a single mother is a victim of a shitty man, not shitty decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
which I think
a
is
victim
that,
of like women are treated like in that kind of a scenario where it's like women would never lie about that kind of a thing. And I've heard other women who are just disgusting talk about women like, well, women, I think women are just, inherently better because they just have so many good qualities that men don't have, like being honest and having integrity and like some other stuff. And like, they're just worshiping themselves through talking about women. Like, women lie, women cheat, women do all the things that men do and more. We're human. So anyways, so I was on the position, and I'm glad you brought up the Brett Kavanaugh thing. I thought Christy Blasey Ford was full of shit from the jump. So when I hear so here's how I handle the situation in general. I hear the accusation, I play out, okay, what if this is a lie? What if this is true? What are the consequences of that? And then I say, okay, how seriously should I acknowledge it based off of those possibilities? Then you go in, then you look at data, you look at, what information you can to determine the truth of that. And then for me, once Christy Blasey Ford came up and had her testimony, I was watching her to see what I could read from her. Do I think she's being authentic? Do I not? Because here's the thing. The facts didn't support her. The narrative didn't support her. The timing made it seem like it was one of these political hit jobs. Yeah, her friend said she wasn't even at the party that she's saying this happened at. So, like, there's all that. But then I actually paid attention and I, like, watched her. And in the beginning of the hearings and the testimony, she's, like, down like this and looking up, and she's got big glasses to make her eyes look big and really sympathetic and really like little puppy face and very innocent. And she had like hair to cover her and everything, and everything she was talking about was very much like this. And then when it came time for her testimony about her, this is where the fork happened for me. When she talked about her rape, she put on I'm emotional voice, which means you make it a little croakier, a little rougher. You try to put a little bit of like you just can't hold your emotions. But the thing is, when someone's actually emotional, it surges of emotion and then collapses. Like you cry and then you're quiet and then you recover and then you breathe and then you build up and it's up and down, it's up and down. Your voice isn't static. She went into I'm upset mode, sounded the exact same monotone little croaky ass way until the story was over, then went back to normal Christy mode of being this little and then once her testimony was over, she sat back in the chair, she put her sunglasses up to tuck her hair back, and she was like literally chin up and proud. Afterwards, her entire demeanor changed as a human being from the time she was playing the part to the job was over. And so I was like, fuck this bitch. I'm done.
Yeah, I didn't believe.
No, you're full of shit. You're full of shit.
Yeah, my mom, like, I think, like, my mom was like, I remember, like, it was weird because I remember my mom, like, was just very just when both of that happened, because my mom is like one of those people that I remember with the false rape allegation, she was just like one of the fiercest defenders of me. We almost had to bring a lawyer in. It was that crazy. And it's so crazy just the way that kind of interlocked with the Brett Kavanaugh shit, because it just was very similar. It's like, and it's like, it's just like, think about it psychologically, like, or not even psychologically, just think about it from like just a pure human perspective. You're kind of someone who thinks very highly of itself. I'm not going to say narcissistic because it's a psychological term, but you think very highly of yourself and you want to be noticed. Being falsely accusing somebody of rape is that's a very like good way of like saying, like, that's like a very good way of
getting social credit.
Like, that's a very good way. I like, there are two others that like I know, like my and what happens also is, you know who this affects? A lot of the boys that this affects is boys with autism and boys that have trouble with social communication. This is who it affects. Like, there are so many like autistic boys that there's one that I know. I'm not going to necessarily tell the story, but there's autistic boys that have probably been falsely accused of sexual assault all the time. And so, like, I know somebody that literally had to make up a year of college was gone down the toilet because of this false allegation that wasn't true. And the police...
There was a story about on Occidental College, I think is what it's called, where a guy had to leave the school. He was kicked out of the school for a rape accusation that was proven to not be true. Like, he was still required to leave the school. It was insane. Occidental College is the one where that happened.
And it's because the feminists the feminists, and to be honest with you, like, there is like a grain of sympathy I have for the colleges that, because it's like, you either do your principle or potentially you'll get fucking like Rose McGowan or like all these like feminists be like hounding down your fucking school on Twitter and all these places. So I do feel like a tiny bit of sympathy for the colleges. And also, just as a thing, I actually dealt with when I was like, I made a short film, and I made it.
We'll wrap this up in the next 5 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. It's just I'm starting to feel tired, and we've been talking for like 5 hours, and at some point we got to call it. So this seems like a good time. But it had nothing to do with what you were saying.
By the way, I want to do this again.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But I will say that, like, I think that there's a lot of the SJW community, it's just based on emotion over reason. And I don't consider this parts of my leftist principles. I don't see, like, there is a sense of like unfunness about the left. And again, false allegations are just, they're true. And I have to give Betsy DeVos at least a little bit of credit, because she did something about this. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. With she, for those who don't know, she reformed Title IX to make it so that there has to be due process, basically.
Yeah.
So that's very good for sure. This has been a dope conversation, man. I really like having someone that you have something to say, you have some knowledge, and you can go from all of these various aspects of politics back and forth. It's a pleasure to be able to talk with someone like that and deal with that kind of stuff. So
I want to do it again. Let's do it again.
For sure. So we'll do it. We'll aim for like probably 3 weeks to a month from now, but maybe earlier. We'll see.
Cool.
But
okay, cool.
I have homework for you because of how you like to absorb information.
Yeah.
It's the Uncommon Ground podcast on my YouTube channel, and it's my policy-centric podcast. I have ones on fixing the economy. I have ones on transgenderism. I have ones on welfare and healthcare and all these kinds of things. I'd like you, if you'd be willing, to go check that stuff out and just get a sense of like what my worldview is and like how I've come to those conclusions. And any feedback and any Like
Yeah.
if you could bring on the podcast, bring your analysis to that, just in your perspective, to just say like, all that stuff. What do you think it is? Do you think it's worth a shit? What not? Where do you agree, disagree, whatever? But I think you would really enjoy that before even the Jordan Peterson lectures and the other stuff we talked about. I think you'd really enjoy that because it's the best bang for your buck content politically on the internet.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, dude, I was happy to have you on. This has been hella awesome. I appreciate all your flexibility and patience up until like this happened. And yeah, man, we'll definitely do it again.
Thank you. I can't wait to listen to this whole podcast and see. Yeah.
No, it'll be cool. Like I'm gonna have to go back and redo notes and all kinds of stuff. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
See you, man.
And there's like 1,000 little clips you can take from this podcast. So it'll be dope for anyone who does that on the other side. You have a good one, sir. It was a great time talking to you, and God bless you, sir. We'll do it again.
God bless you, sir. See you.
All right, for the folks that are still here, I'll open up the comments, and if you have anything you want to say, feel free to say it. If not, I will hop off soon. All right. Peace.